Good evening, beautiful jazz musicians of University Prep. It's time again for tonight's Vinyl Delights. I'm excited about tonight's installment because it features a fantastic album, but I have to say I can't take credit for this one. I have to admit to you that I have been posting these on Facebook because I thought that maybe other people might enjoy them, get a kick out of them while they're stuck at home too. And people have been digging them, it seems. So it's been going cool. And my friend Nate Omdahl, who many of you know, he's been in to work with the band before, work with the bass players, and we've played his arrangements many, many times. He commented on one of the videos and said, "Hey, have you played anything from way out west?" And I thought that's a fantastic idea. So that's tonight's installment. Sonny Rollins, Way Out West, on the Contemporary label. This was recorded in March of 1957. What is that? Almost exactly 63 years ago today. This is a trio record, just saxophone, bass, and drums, featuring Sonny on the tenor, Ray Brown on the bass, and Shelly Manne on the drums. It's an interesting record and concept because Rollins is an East Coast player. Contemporary Records is a West Coast record label. You know that jazz started in New Orleans, of course, and moved up the Mississippi River to Chicago and over to New York and kind of plopped down there, and that's where it's lived. But there was also a scene going on the West Coast, and Contemporary Records, this record label, was one of the amazing documenters of this West Coast scene. And one of the things that they used to do when the East Coast musicians would come over to the West, they would book them for a session and combine some of these West Coast stars like Sonny with the East Coast stars with some of their West Coast rhythm section people. And this particular moment in time, in March of 1967, Sonny was in town in Los Angeles playing with Max Roach's band, who he played with for a few years in the late 50s. And bassist Ray Brown was in town with Oscar Peterson's band, who he played with for decades. And Shelly Manne is from Los Angeles and was one of the staples on the Contemporary label. He was one of the guys who they hired for a lot of their records. He was the main drummer, I would say, probably for that record label. And they got these three guys together. They had never played together before, never performed together before. And they were all so busy at this moment that they had to book this session starting at 3 a.m. They went from 3 a.m. till sometime in the middle of the morning, and they had cut a bunch of tunes, and 6 of them showed up on this record. Way Out West, kind of a pun because Sonny is out west, and look at the photo there with kind of the dorky Western theme. And they do songs like "I'm an Old Cowhand" and "Wagon Wheels," so it's kind of a funny little concept. But oh boy, did it work out! This is one of the great albums of all time, and this is the first time that Sonny ever recorded without a piano player. This was, again, just bass, drums, and saxophone. And that wasn't very common up until this point. Sonny did it, and it sort of became his thing. He did this a lot over his career, and lots of saxophone players do it now, since the 50s and up till now. But this was the first one. So it's kind of cool that way. There's a lot of little geeky things about this record. The contemporary West Coast angle. The engineer on this is a guy named Roy Dunan, who, we talk about Rudy Van Gelder, who engineered on the East Coast and engineered so many of the jazz records that we know and love. Well, Roy Dunan was his West Coast counterpart, and he made just beautiful sounding records as well. Funny thing about him, a lot of the jazz records we like to listen to in mono. For Dunan's records, somehow he mixed better in stereo. He recorded better in stereo. Kind of sort of the consensus is that if you buy a contemporary record, the stereo is maybe going to sound a little bit better than the mono. Yeah, who knows? I kind of think that's true, but you be the judge. Anyway, what else can I tell you? So the song that we're listening to, I'll post the video here, is the old standard, "There Is No Greater Love." And there's so many songs you could pick. In fact, you should just go listen to this whole record, first of all, because it's a classic and it's fantastic. But I picked this song for a number of reasons. First of all, it's just Sonny's tone. And, all of us as jazz musicians, we're striving to have our own tone, our own concept, our own personality. And Sonny has all of that, and always did from the time he started on the scene until he stopped playing. He's still alive, by the way. He's 89 years old. He can't play anymore because he has some respiratory diseases that keep him from playing the saxophone, sadly. But he is still with us, and he just always had this personality on the horn, and the sound is just so spectacular. It's so huge and warm and round, but it's also hard and edgy. Just a great sound, beautiful sound. And then just the interplay between these three guys is just fantastic. And one thing I want you to pay attention to when you listen to it is Ray Brown and the quarter note that he's laying down. It's phenomenal. This quarter note is so big, it just feels like an ocean. Each note is just like, whether he's playing a quarter note or playing a triplet or whatever he's doing. And this is the guy that a lot of this stuff comes from. Like, Ray Brown is certainly one of the greatest bass players that we have ever seen in jazz music, and a lot of the way that bass players play now is because of him. The quarter note, all those triplety runs and things, that a lot of that stuff was just signature Ray Brown stuff. So pay attention to that and how locked in he is with Shelly Manne on the drums. And then when they're not locked in, check it out, because Ray is just laying down such a great quarter note that kind of frees Shelly up to do triplets and all sorts of other things in and around him. And then listen to how Sonny also plays with the quarter note and plays in and around Ray's quarter note. But to me, this song is all about that bass line, all about Ray just laying it down, whether it's in his solo or whether it's when the other guys are playing with him. So I hope you dig it, and I hope you'll go and listen to the rest of the record, because it is a thing of beauty from start to finish. All right, I hope you all are well. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow in class, and be well. I'll catch you next time here on tonight's Vinyl Delights.